Republicanism appears to have been banned from our TV screens over the past few days. But there's one part of public life where dissent has got through. This was how some Dundee United fans marked a minute of silence before a match against Rangers.
Following the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, please now observe a minute of silence in her memory, which will start with the referee's whistle, followed by the national anthem.
The chant you heard there was Lizzie's in a box, Lizzie's in a box, to the tune of Give It Up by Casey and the Sunshine Band. The following day, some Celtic fans had their say. This was a planned minute of applause before Sunday's game against St Mirren. So my suspicion there is that the organisers, suspected that Celtic fans, or some of them at least, wouldn't take part in a minute of silence. I thought a minute of applause would be a safer option, and then very innovatively, a group of Celtic fans sung the chant, "Clap if you hate the Royals, clap if you hate the monarchy," which put everyone else in the stadium in presumably a very awkward situation, or at least the monarchists in the stadium in an awkward situation. Aaron, I want you to explain the context here. I presume it's not a coincidence that Celtic and Dundee fans, or at least groups of them, are the ones who have been hostile to the Royals and not willing to participate in the state-mandated minutes of applause or minutes of silence.
It's quite an obvious answer. This is a football club immersed in Republican tradition, ties to Ireland. That's nothing new. Dundee United, a bit more surprising. I mean, their historic name was Dundee Hibernian. So again, similar historic roots to Celtic and the kinds of demographics they reflected and represented. But in recent years, less so. Important to distinguish between Dundee and Dundee United. Lots of people on Twitter saying, "Oh, it's Dundee." It's not Dundee. Although if you go on Google, you'll see that their stadia are right slap bang next to each other, which is quite amusing given they're about the same capacity. I think something like 14, 15,000. Dundee United play at Tannadice. I don't know where Dundee play. My apologies, Scottish football fans. But yeah, Celtic somewhat predictable. Dundee United less so. We're not showing it there, but there were also some interesting boos and shouts and names being called at the Everton match, which was more of a surprise to me because this is something I've been trying to sort of think and talk about over the last several days. I don't think we're going to see a groundswell of republicanism in England. I think that's a long way off. I think it's close to impossible. But I do think that in the periphery and in the sort of Celtic fringe, Wales and Scotland, I think there are real challenges for the House of Windsor. And don't underestimate the fact that people in Scotland, okay, yes, of course it's Celtic, or yes, of course it's Dundee United. But when people don't self-censor en masse, that makes far less radical things quite openly permissible. To go on television and say, "I'm a Republican," or to say it in the pub. So I think we're looking actually at increasingly diverging political cultures between England, Scotland, and Wales. Of course, they've always been different, but I think that's getting stronger over time. And finally, if anybody says, "Well, look, this is Celtic, they've always been like that," not so fast. Jock Stein, who was their manager in 1967 when they won the European Cup, the first British team to win the European Cup, the Lisbon Lions, he got an OBE in response to that, and he would have got a knighthood, but the myth is that he didn't get a knighthood because of apparently they were a bit too aggressive as a team. They got too many red cards. Otherwise, he would have got a knighthood. So yes, of course, Celtic have always been this amazing institution representing, Scottish Irish community, Catholics, etc. But this level of overt disdain and hostility, which important to say, it's not universal across Celtic fans, but it's there and it's vocal, obviously. The extent of that and the overt nature of it, that is new.